Thanks to Harrier Trail Running for sponsoring this week's interview. Harrier is a fantastic UK trail running brand making quality, functional and affordable gear for anyone who loves getting off-road. Whether you're a first-time trail runner or a seasoned ultra athlete, their kit covers everything from race vests, poles, waterproofs and other trail running essentials built for the ever-changing British weather. We love Harrier Tea and Trails because they truly champion inclusivity and community. They help runners of every level feel welcome, supported and confident enough to go out and explore the trails. This week we're shining a light on the Exmo Pro 3-layer waterproof jacket, the trail running shell for anyone who wants breathability and light rain protection. At just 214 grams, it weighs lighter than a can of pop. It's tough, comfy and folds into its own pocket too. Perfect for ultras, multi-day missions or those 1-hour runs that somehow end up being 3. It's got a 10,000 millimeter hydrostatic head, 50,000 MVP breathability, vents heat fast so you don't feel like you're slow cooking inside your own jacket, and you can get all of that for £189.99. And if you would like to save 10% on your purchase from Harrier, then use the code TEASE10 for 10% off site-wide, or check out the brilliant trail bundles for up to 20% off. Head over to www.harrietrunfree.co.uk.
This week we are so lucky. We sat down for a chat in his airless, windowless lab. It didn't look much fun in there. He looked happy. It was in his natural environment with Paul Booth. I would say the leading sports nutritionist. Let's face it. If you're working with Tom Evans, Ruth, Croft and Salomon, you know your business. Oh my gosh, a heavy flex. I loved our chat with him. We were both like hungry spaniels. We couldn't get enough. We had so many questions from everything he was saying. We're like, oh yes. I love somebody that is an absolute professional in their sport, but is totally down to earth at the same time. Is like, I can explain this to you two morons. You can understand, he could relate to us. He's got no ego. He's just like, well, this is what I see in the field. This is what works. This is what I'm testing. But he's like always learning as well.
I think that's the skill. He is a super academic, but he can communicate too.
Amazing. We had lots of Patreon questions. We tried, they're sort of answered within the conversation as well as we tried to answer them, but we really were as well. He had someone running behind him for 6.5 hours I was like, oh my God, this baby's left this guy.
That would have been awesome if they were in the same room, just banging away on a treadmill.
I wanted him to take the laptop through, but I guess that was sort of like data protection. You might not want to see this as well.
Yeah, data breach.
Settle in and enjoy our chat with Paul. He wanted us to, he won't mind us saying this. He wanted us to point you towards his Instagram account. It's ultra.endurance.nutritionist. He's hoping for 1 or 2 new followers. So let's make his day and follow him. And he's about to publish a paper that he was looking at different carb levels over 50k. So that's going to be really interesting for everyone as well. Enjoy your run and enjoy our chat with Paul.
I've done some extensive research. I think we toured the line together, 2019 London Marathon, and you had a, 2:48? I don't want to rob you of any minutes or seconds.
2:47, so yeah, only seconds, but the vital seconds. Yeah, I surprised myself on that. What was I, 44 or 45 at the time, and thought, shit.
44, yeah.
If only I'd got my arse in gear when I was younger. Instead of going to the Hacienda, I could have actually been a half-decent athlete.
That should have been on your T-shirt.
No, yeah. Don't give up, kids.
It's never too late. Was it Dracula? He did his best work. He was about 400 years old before he started doing his best work. So
exactly, yeah. That's exactly the same as me. Like, I got to that age, and that was the first point I actually started taking it seriously.
It's never. I think your 40s, especially for the athletes that maybe don't do it as a kid, because if you like start running when you're 8-year-old, you get to 20, you've been doing it for ages. But I've probably only been doing it since 2012. So relative terms, quite a young athlete.
I mean, I've been running ultras for 20 years now, but that was late 20s, just hitting it too hard and then thinking, right, things need to change. And that was the key, thankfully.
What about fell races too? Again, my research showed that you do enjoy a fell race. Do you have a favourite one, or one that I should enter? I do like a fell race.
Yeah, I mean, actually with fell races are what introduced me to ultras. So things like doing Bob Graham, which did in 2012, 13. But yeah, like Old County Tops is great as a long distance fell race. That was kind of an ultra before we had ultras, if that makes sense. We just had really long fell race. So so that's good. And then quite a few of the like local fast ones. Yeah, when I used to live in Manchester, great races around the Peak District. It's like Kinder Downfall's a classic. That's a great race. Yeah, I used to be editor of the Fell Runner magazine as well.
Spicy content in there, I'm sure.
Oh God, yeah. But I changed it. I changed the design. I changed the paper and everything. And then I started to get hate mail through the post from really conservative fell runners to say, "What have you done?"
Don't like change. Oh my goodness.
No,
I love that they sent that through the post.
Yeah, like they didn't put the name on it or anything, but just like
really,
your magazine is shit. What have you done to it? And things like that. It just do old people just do not like change.
No, but I don't like change. I'm definitely. I'd have sent you that too. Fell runner.
Yeah, it wasn't you, was it?
I'm always curious why like all county tops, they're literally on, I know the trails couldn't take it, but why is there just not like 1,000 people entered that race? It is a blast of a day. 3 massive climbs, loads of decent grub at the finish. Usually it's a nice weather day and you have for me, it's somewhere between 8 and 9 hours out on the fells. Brilliant day.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a great route. Not expensive. You still got to run it in pairs, so you've got a buddy to run with. Yeah. Nice cake at the end. Actually, T-shirts that you wear. Really nice cotton T-shirts.
Gary, listeners, it's a rare day I see him on Zoom without him flashing.
It is. It's a badge of honour. And when you go off to UTMB around Chamonix in the summer, you spot somewhere in Old County top.
Yeah.
Special handshake time.
Out of all the T-shirts I own, I get the little subtle nod with the Old County Tops T-shirt on.
I mean, I've got a backlog of them that have got holes in and all sorts I'm still wearing. In fact, I might have one today. I'm not going to pull my top up to check, just in case.
You going back this year, 2026?
No, I'm not, because there's a race I tend to go and do every year, which is a Preseli Beast race in Pembrokeshire. I do that because my wife, her parents have got a caravan near there. So we go and have a little holiday and the weather's always brilliant. Yeah, this year, my wife's doing UTS, which is the week after, which is obviously same weekend as all county tops. So, so I'll be looking after the dog and giving her some support there.
Some emotional.
That Preseli Beast, that's Kaz and Kaz's race, isn't it? That looked incredible.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's a great race.
Got to go and do that one, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 16 quid still, and you get, it's a great route, get some food at the end, it's a good laugh. In the Preseli Hills, it's just somewhere where you wouldn't normally run. You know, it's somewhere a little bit different. I'll say new trails, I've done them loads now, but it's great. I just like that balance between doing UTMB and actually just doing those super low-key local events.
So I love them too. A lot less pressure. And ones that you can come away and you can walk the next day are always a bonus as well. Not every race has to ruin.
I just like the fact there's not some guy with a gimbal chasing you down a trail. It's brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
Does that happen a lot to you, Gary? Every race you go, just not having the media there.
What a nightmare.
Nice.
Yeah, and just the difference. Remember, with the Preseli Beast once, I actually won it, and the prize was going for a pint with the local vicar. And it was great. I'm not a religious person, but I kind of was after that. He was a really nice guy, and he can really put his Guinness away.
Oh my God, I just spat out my tea. I would love to have been a fly on the wall for that.
It was cool. I remember another mate won a local ultra once. I forget where it was, but he basically won parts of a Dyson Hoover. It wasn't the actual Hoover. It was just, do you know the little bits that they stick on a Dyson Hoover?
Yeah.
Like you had all the bits for it. And it's like, what do I do now? I'm like, you've just got to buy a Dyson, mate. And you're like, so stuff like that I quite like, rather than getting bits of rock or whatever it may be. Or
Yeah, I do like a bit of a food win. That's always a good one. Big load of cheese or a bit of meat or a box of veg. I've had honey. That was a good one.
Yeah, they're good because you're going to use them as well. It's like
we used to get ski passes when I lived in France. You'd win ski passes, and because we lived there, we got ski passes, but they were great. And then when people came to stay, I'd be like 8 ski because they're really expensive. 8 ski passes are great. Paul, we ask all our guests this question to start podcast. Where are you? What's your view from the window? And have you been for a run today?
So at the moment, I'm in the laboratories at Leeds Beckett University because I've got an athlete on the treadmill running for 6.5 hours. Yeah, view out the window. There isn't a window at the moment. There's the phlebotomy suite next door, and there's someone in there taking blood at the moment. and that I can just see through that. My usual view is Yorkshire Dales. So I've got quite a nice view out the window. We're quite rural in the Yorkshire Dales as well, in Reefs.
Oh, we've got fond memories of Reeth. Many runs through Reeth, staying in Reeth. It's a beautiful place, but it is in the middle of nowhere, Paul.
Yeah, right on the coast to coast, slap bang in the middle of it. So yeah, it is rural, but exactly the way I like it.
So when you go from a run from Reeth, from your door, which way, what are you sort of which direction do you sort of tend to go?
Good question. It depends. So usually I go up Fremington Edge, which is literally at the back of my house. Really nice ridge to run along, drop down. Then I'll go over Calver, which is the sort of independent hill in the middle. And at the back of that is where they filmed Wuthering Heights recently.
My dream.
And then I'll usually,
don't start
I'll usually
off,
head
Paul.
back from there. Or I'll do the Three Peaks of Reeth and do Harker as well, which is quite nice. For about 15 miles, you can gain about 1,100 meters, and it's all runnable. There's not a bit that way. You wouldn't be walking,
that's my dream. Yeah. That's amazing. I stayed there not long ago, a couple of weekends ago, and then we got a taxi all the way to St. Bees, and then we ran all the way back over 3 days, and it was brilliant. But by the time we got to Reeth, everything was shut. I guess midwinter, not a lot of options.
There's not a lot of options there at the best of time. But in winter, in summer, there's a lot of tourists and there's a lot more going. Yeah, winter is pretty much the hook.
Oh, it's a cracking base. Swaledale Marathon. The amount of times I've done that, I must be a local legend on that route. I've done it. I've never done it fast, but I've done it lots. Yeah, belter of a place.
Yeah, that's a good route. Yeah.
You've built your reputation as one of the leading sports nutritionists, particularly for endurance sport. Can you share with us what sparked your interest in this field and how your journey's led you to specialise in, I'll say endurance sports, but I guess now it's really gone down the ultra running niche, hasn't it?
I suppose what sparked it was, I had a massive career change about, just short of 10 years ago. So I've been running ultras for approximately 20 years and doing fell races and a bit of road stuff and a bit of mountain biking for a bit longer than that. So I was always interested in it. Like I was an academic for just over 20 years and I worked up to be head of film school. So I initially started as a graduate. So my undergrad degree is in film history. And I got a master's in screenwriting and filmmaking. So I worked in the film industry, then worked in academia, built up so as head of film school. And I was just absolutely sick of it. I was sick of like marking work. I was sick of just all the league tables and things like that. And then one person asked me that question everyone gets asked me. So if you could go back and do it again, if you could go to uni and study something else, what would it be? I'm like, oh, well, I'd definitely do nutrition or something around sport or physiology. And then it kind of snapped and like I thought, do I want to be doing this job I'm in now? Like when I retire, and thought, can I deal with another 20 or 30 years of it? I'm surprised if I could even get to the end of the week the way I feel now. So I just took a sidestep, did a couple of masters in that, and then just retrained as a nutritionist. So gradually I started to drop down the ranks in terms of my job. So I went from like head to lecturer to a part-time member of staff. And once I built my business up, I jumped ship. And then at the same point, I got a PhD scholarship as well, which was good. When you're building up a business, you think, do I want a business where I kind of catch everything, or do I want a niche? And I thought, right, what do I know? And actually, what have I got the most questions about? What led me to do a PhD was the fact that like all of the advice was given about ultra running. Actually, a lot of it was grounded in science from road running or the disciplines like skiing. Like there's not very much around ultra running. And I thought sometimes am I just doing guesswork? I'm getting up to a certain point. This advice is fine, but actually we're not quite sure. So I thought I want to go back to uni and actually, rather than just get a PhD, answer some of those questions, which has kind of led me to this point where I've not answered the questions. I've just got a hell of a lot more questions now, and which is always kind of typical of getting back into education.
Were you always bang on your sports nutrition then when you were competing as an athlete, or were you suffering with nausea and?
Yeah, like definitely not. What I realised, so around about 2010, 2011, for about 3 years, like my guts were like really bad. If I went running after about 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, I'd get like major bloating in my gut and like need the toilet fast. So I almost gave up running. I couldn't run for like more than an hour. It's like really painful. And the pain would be consistent for the rest of the evening then. I thought I need to do something about this. So actually at that point, I dipped into the research more and tried to sort of self-medicate. Because again, like I was working in uni, so I was familiar with, how to do research and how to dig into the science. So yeah, so I managed to sort that out. And that was my diet basically. And some of the things I was taking in a day, particularly the amount of fiber I was taking in before those runs and a couple of other little bits as well. So I'd resolved that. So I was quite pleased about that. And that sort of put me on to thinking about nutrition in quite a strong way, particularly around sports nutrition. And again, it's still quite a new discipline, actually. So it wasn't anywhere near what it was then that there is now in terms of what we know. So yeah, so I was building up sort of gels and things like that they were kind of in their infancy as well. And, even 60 grams there seemed quite a lot at the time.
Yeah.
So I was kind of taking a lot of stuff on. And even at that point, I'd do an ultra. And like a lot of friends at the time, we would take gels just in case of an emergency.
Yeah.
Like if we got really tired, we'd take a gel at that point. It wasn't something we would do each hour. And then, we would sign up for a lot of ultras purely to use the aid stations and to get some food. But at the time, it was mostly flapjacks and things like that. It was never like sports nutrition. It was the odd drink. And then it was only in the sort of, I don't know, a couple of years later that started to change and build up. I mean, I don't think I really had it nailed until probably about 2020. Because the difficult thing is, you're so swayed by like the influence and what's going on in there. It's so strong. Even when you know what you're talking about, some of the studies that I've done them because I know that the science doesn't support that. But you're so pulled by people going, oh, well, I did that and it works really well, or I did this and it works really well. And everyone's sort of jumping on the bandwagon a little bit. So it's trying to like base it in the evidence as much as possible. So yeah, I didn't have it dialed in from the start, but I'd say it probably took about 8 to 10 years to really kind of get that nailed down. And some of the stuff that I say to people now actually sounds quite off the wall, but it's just that it's going against some of those sort of more influenced ideas we've got around carbohydrate intake and electrolyte intake as well, which are mostly coming from supplement companies rather than what's actually written down in the science.
I was really interested to hear about your take on taking less carbs at the beginning of like a longer ultra you had enough glycogen stores to be able to, if they were full when you started, to let the gut settle actually almost a little bit and then slowly lean into the carbs as the race went on as well, which is exactly what, before I'd heard you talk about that, I was like, well, that has worked for me, is that the really long, actually, if I put too much carbs on to start with, I find I crash a little bit almost. And then my gut goes. But actually, if I go, you're going slower anyway, with less carb to start with, and then just sort of like listen to your body. It's not science, is it? I know, sorry to say that, but instead of forcing it down, just like ease into it so much more. But we get the mantra of like smash the carbs from the beginning. But then it's tricky because then some people might listen to that and go, so, well, okay, so I won't eat for the first 2 or 3 hours then. And then you're like, no. You need the carbs, but you're just getting the right balance. And I bet you have that sort of like push and pull all the time with athletes as well.
Oh yeah, massively. Yeah. And that comes from, again, it depends on that individual athlete and what their comfort and tolerance is as well, and the race conditions. But yeah, it's like in UTMB, what year was it? 22, 23, I can't quite remember. Or it might have even been 24. Anyway, one of those.
When it was terrible, when it was the snowstorm.
No, it's the one where it was really hot when Katie Shine got the record. But that year was loads of DNFs really, really early on. And it's basically that everyone started out too fast. It was hot and everyone started on 120 grams straight away, and just think absolute recipe for disaster. So I kind of think, right, just kind of get in and find your comfort zone a little bit. Don't go max out on carbs, just because some of the data from our lab at Leeds Beckett, we've done some dose response studies, and we found that actually going over 100 grams an hour, you start to burn through your glycogen stores a little bit faster. So again, it's about protecting those stores a little bit early on. Early on in exercise, you're going to use a bit more of your glycogen as well. So it's not to say don't start fueling from the outset, but you don't have to go like mega high. You can actually use the first couple of hours to build up to that and just get some of that gut comfort a little bit. But also that would come with pacing as well for last year for UTMB, for Tom Evans, as part of our team that we work together with, we're talking about this for hours and hours and hours. And it's, should he stop at Lazouche checkpoint? Because it's really early on and it's a bit chaotic there. But we said, look, let's get you to stop there, because what we will do then is you'll take 30 seconds filling up your bottle. So it means you're not going to dehydrate. You're going to take on more fluid in that first section. But also, it's going to pull you out from that lead pack. So you're not tempted to go off with them and go too fast, because you'll find that they'll DNF and drop off quite a lot anyway. So you'll just hold back. It might cost you 30 seconds. You won't be at that lead pack, but you'll reduce your pace a little bit. And again, like things like that just early on work really, really well. Hopefully later on, like if again, you look at UTMB, you could think, is it about the speed in the first half, or is it about the reduction in pace and fatigue and durability in the second half? So the more we can be slightly on the side of being conservative in the first half, actually, we can make up for that in the second half. And if you look at Ruth Croft, who's another athlete that I work with, she's been super fast in the second half of UTMB, and that's where she's built all that lead each time when she came first and second, 24 and 25.
It's going to take some confidence. I suppose the knowledge along with the confidence to do that. I would normally smash it in while my guts could take it. But in actual fact, I'm probably prematurely bringing on some kind of gut distress. Yeah, it's crazy. So what's going on in the gut then, Paul? When you said about the athletes kind of stuck rigidly to their carb intake, but the temperature was hot, is that creating like an imbalance? They're sweating more, so it's just a different mixture. What's going on?
Yeah, exactly. Well, like when it's hot, like if you're not acclimatized to the heat, so if you've not done some serious heat training, then actually you oxidize less exogenous carbohydrates. So if you take in 90 grams of carbohydrates, at best, most people might oxidize 80 grams of that, let's say. But in the heat, that goes down even more. And most of that is because, again, you get hot. So working muscles, or your blood's going to divert away from your gut to your muscles, but also you get hot, so it goes to your skin as well to sweat. So there's less blood going to your gut. And then what happens there is it's going to slow down your digestion. You're going to oxidize less, but also it's going to increase the likelihood of getting GI issues as well. So then the harder you work, particularly to the point if you get dehydrated as well. So if you get dehydrated, your plasma volume is going to go down. There's going to be less blood going around. So actually, you're going to have to work harder to push that around. You're going to be sweating, so that's going to go down even more. So all those different things are all going to lead to kind of getting gut issues. And then anyone who's going over about 75% VO2 max, that will alter your gut as well a little bit.
Yeah.
So again, like digestion will slow down a little bit. Again, that same reason that your blood's being diverted. So again, all these things are going to converge together and it's just going to create more issues.
So what would you do then if you're 10 hours deep into an ultramarathon? You might have stuff coming out of both ends. I don't know. Is there like some way you can course correct? It's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah, I'd just ease back a bit. The problem is some people go, okay, right, I've taken 120 grams all the way through and I need to, like such and such says I've got to take 120 grams. So they carry on with that. Yeah. And most of the time, what I see with 120 grams, if someone's not done some serious gut training and some serious heat training, then it just accumulates in the gut and that's going to be there and that's going to take time to digest. So actually you can ease off. And the amount you've probably got accumulated in your gut is going to cover you at least for a couple of hours, and just give your gut a little bit of a rest, slow your pace down, just take some time out in an aid station to cool down, hydrate, pour some water over your head, just try and reduce your skin temperature, try and reduce your core temperature. And actually after a while, you're probably good to go again. And yeah, you're likely to lose some time, but losing time is better than a DNF. If you carry on the way you're going, it's only going to lead to disaster. Like you need to do something that might seem radical, but if you get back on track, actually, you might be able to recover some of that time a little bit later on.
When I'm thinking about nutrition, and you probably experience people coming to you with all these varying areas they could improve. You've got your daily nutrition, you've got maybe the period before the race itself too. And then, yeah, if you maybe have a quick turnaround. Some people want to just have pies, chips and beer after a race. But yeah, you might also have the kind of post-race too. How could people maybe then improve their daily nutrition? Are there any, you have lots of people coming to you asking for advice. Is there any kind of common items that just need touching up a bit?
It's a great question. It's one we could talk about all day, because the majority of people, I'll get an email and it's like, and most people, I've got a race in 2 weeks. Can you help me
I get this too, Paul. Can you write me a plan? I've got 200 miler in 3 weeks.
And it's like, no, sorry. Or I'll write back and say, yeah, take a gel every 20 minutes.
Good luck.
Free advice, yeah. But again, like, it's sort of people put so much emphasis on the race plan, and they think the race plan is the thing that's going to help them go faster, but it's not. Like, your race plan is just, I always say your race day is just an outcome of all the work you've done in the weeks, months, years, potentially leading up to that. The race day is just making sure everything lines up and you've got everything and you understand it and you can just implement that strategy. People talk about race nutrition a lot because that's kind of a sexy thing to talk about. And people don't really look as much at the day-to-day nutrition, but I'm constantly pushing the day-to-day nutrition, because if you get that right, then actually you're able to carry a higher training load, training volume, hit better intensities, recover better, essentially perform better, get greater adaptations out of your training. And actually, when it comes to race day, you've got a much greater capacity, or you might have a great capacity to start and you can fulfill that capacity through having good nutrition, actually a good coach who can steer you in the right direction and work with that. So yeah, day to day is massive. I see the same mistakes from like elites to right down to amateurs. And it's usually around not eating enough carbohydrates and just kind of going day to day and eating the same thing, but rather than periodizing and thinking, oh, actually, I've got 2 big, like long sessions on Saturday and Sunday. And amateurs, even more than elites, will go out and do like an 8-hour session. For elites, you never see that. Elites will always draw the line at 4 hours. Like, biggest eye opener I've ever had, like Courtney. So I work for Salomon as well, and Courtney's on our team, Courtney DeWalter. And I sat next to her in a car once and we're chatting. And she said, whoa, man, she said, that was a big session. And we were probably out there for like 4 hours. And I'm like, huh? And she said, yeah, I never do that in training. She said, never. Like, I would never go that hard in training. I would never go that long in a week. And it's odd because you think she's out there doing like these mega long sessions, but amateurs will do that. So people quite often eat the same thing and not periodize around that. So actually, there's times when people might be fueling effectively, but by the end of the week, particularly the weekend, people are pretty much like glycogen's low. They've not fueled properly. They've maybe not eaten enough. And actually just not getting enough out of those sessions.
Or eating too much. There's studies, isn't there, that eating all your calories at the end of the day is still going to put you in deficit, even if you've eaten enough, because you can't load just at the end of the day. And that's what a lot of people that are busy with families and jobs and stuff, and they might go, oh, you just had a quick snack for lunch, but have a huge dinner. It's like the damage is done during the day then.
Yeah, exactly. And people aren't recovering properly. So it's that overall periodized approach to the week for sure. And then that timing around training sessions as well. So it's exactly what you were saying, Eddie, like people kind of leaving it. And I'll see with elites where they'll go off, drive to the local trail. And I say local, it might be an hour away. They'll run, come back to the car, get changed, get home, and then have something to eat, which could be an hour and a half to 2 hours later. They might have a shower before that, and it's way too late. So as soon as you get off the trail, get that first recovery shake in, food, eat again 1 hour later, and then eat again 1 hour later than that. That will optimize that recovery, set someone up for the next day. There was a research study that came out last year. It might have been the end of 2024. I can't quite remember that. But it showed that in terms of high intensity work, the same is possible for longer duration work, where we're really going to kind of drain our glycogen stores, eating directly after and trying to restore glycogen directly after a session, compared to doing that later in the day. It was 30% improvement the following day in high intensity exercise.
Imagine if someone said you could take a pill for 30 and it's £3,000. People would be like, yeah, I'll buy that. I'll buy that. And like then you could just eat as soon as you finish.
Yeah. 30% is absolutely massive. Like 3% would be big, but 30% is off the scale. And again, that was in high intensity. So we don't necessarily know if it's going to be the same for endurance, but there's definitely.
I think we all know, though, if you eat well, the difference in your training. And if you don't, then the next day you start your run, you think, you might have missed dinner for some reason, or you just think, I didn't have any carbs with that, and then you feel it the next day. My secret power is my snack bag, which I have. It goes everywhere with me, and it's full of nuts, dried fruit, biscuits, anything I just like grab and I fill it, and it just lives in the car at the beginning of the week, and I just work my way through it because I've got 3 kids, Paul, and I just live in my car driving them from things to, and it's definitely the way I can handle a high training load is just like, and I fuel every single session after as soon as I come through the door, I eat something. But it's hard. It is really hard that like constant, when you're training really hard, having to eat constantly is quite a bit of a mental battle as well, isn't it? Like you kind of think you're like, oh my God, I'm eating. This is hard work. Eating enough
definitely.
to fuel. If you can hear someone like you saying 30%, you just have to remind yourself of that. My future self will be so pleased. Save a fortune on carbon shoes and just have some milk.
All those gains, that's what's going to help you on race day. That's the performance.
I worry about people that I don't think you eat enough during the week. And then suddenly you ask your gut to then take on all these carbs during races. And you're like, but you can practice this every single day and people don't. And then they wonder why. Like if you fuel your body, over pump the body almost every single day, then when it comes to a race and you need to, it's like a Ferrari, it's tuned, it's been in the pit stop and it's ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I see the research, the science supports gut training hugely, but I also see it in practice. And I see even with a little bit of gut training, even over a few weeks, you see people turn around really quickly. Like my advice is start gut training early, just even 1 day a week. So if someone's got UTMB at the end of August, for example, I would start gut training just 1 session a week now, but build up to whatever you think you might take on at UTMB, whether it's 60, 70, 80, 90 grams an hour, go 20% above that. So if your target, if you want to do well at UTMB, if you want to be at the sharp end, then you should be aiming for 80, 90 grams an hour. Me, I would say take the next few weeks with your long run to build up to 120 grams. I wouldn't suggest you take that in the race. We actually want to overshoot because when it comes to race day, we're giving you a buffer then. So that means that you might start with 60 grams an hour, build up to 90. Mm-hmm. After a few weeks on that long run, you will definitely be able to tolerate 120. I wouldn't say do that on every single run, just 1 run a week. Keep that going all the way to UTMB, closer to that time, put in a bit more gut training, and that will pay off massively.
Do you think it's better to do the gut training on your long run rather than a high intensity session?
Yeah, definitely.
Easier to get the carbs down than when you're struggling.
Yeah. And because if you start with a high intensity session, there's the issue that you're going to damage the quality of that if you get gut issues. And again, you might damage your long run, but it's going to be slower and a little bit easier. So people who do get gut issues, I would kind of start on the easier runs, like 1 or 2 hours. And then when you can tolerate that, start to build it up into the long run. And again, even on the long run, I'll try and do like a kind of inverse pyramid where we'll start with like 60 grams and then move up to 70 and 80 and then higher. And then when people are comfortable with that, turn it into a bit of a pyramid and start with heavy at the start and then ease off. And then people can gradually start to increase on that. And you'd be surprised how much people can take on. And with Ruth, when we were setting up for UTMB, we started gut training pretty early. And initially she was like, well, I'm not sure if I like this, getting a few gut issues. And it's like, right, just work it through. Like you were always going to get gut issues. Like the whole purpose is to kind of bring on gut issues a bit and then work it through. Some people draw the line when they get gut issues. That's a point when we want to just keep on pushing. In the end, like we worked through it. She was absolutely fine. And there's a really great clip from UTMB where she missed a couple of gels and she got to an aid station. I don't know who filmed it, but she went 1 gel, 2 gel, 3 gels back to back, went straight back out there.
You must have been like, my work here is done.
Exactly. People were messaging me going, oh man, that's a risky choice, but it's genius what you've done. How did you put in 3 gels for us? I didn't. That wasn't me. You've just forgot to take the gels, and she just took them. Because when we did a debrief the next day, first thing I said to her was like 3 gels. She's like, yeah, I just forgot, but I knew that I needed to take all those carbs and I could take it. But again, that is a clear example of the power of gut training in action.
I don't know if you saw it. The guy who won Ironman New Zealand at the weekend, I'll send it to you. There's a good reel going down that says he threw 7 modern gels in all at once. He was dying on the marathon. He threw it in the dome, he says. I threw it in the dome. And a couple of cups of Coke. And he was like, bit uncomfortable for 10 minutes and then I was on fire. But he talks about gut training then. He says, I do that. I knew my gut could handle it. I knew
Yeah.
I was like, I'd missed nutrition. This was a risky tactic, but I just decided to go for it. Why is it, Paul, then that is it because we haven't trained the gut well enough? Everybody always says on our podcast, I'm fine. I train. I never have gut issues when I'm training. And then I do a race and I'm in a terrible state. And I would say 99.9% of us would relate to that. What is it about the race environment that causes the gut to go south? Is it all pace related, or is there something else going on?
I mean, there's a number of different variables. One could well be nerves as well. If you walk down like a high street, let's say, and there's a public toilets, there's usually not a queue outside. You go to a race, those toilets are absolutely smashed. And it's not just the fact that
lovely.
people need the toilet like at that particular point. It's race nerves before the race as well. So there's always a little bit of that, even if people say, oh, I've not really got any nerves. So that's going to come into it. For ultras in particular, I would say the time and the duration. So people tend to get gut issues maybe after the 4 or 5 hour mark. And for me, that's usually an indicator of two things: either the cumulative effect of food on the gut, and it's either people have taken too much on and it's coming back up, or quite a lot of the time it's dehydration. So it's kind of what I said at the start. People have just been underhydrating, shunting the blood away from the gut to the muscles to the skin. And actually what will happen there is essentially impair the gut. So kind of little bits of bacteria get into the blood, and then that's when you'll get that response of nausea. So that's responding to the fact that you've got gut damage, and you'll get inflammation there as well. And that could lead to bloating and like needing the toilet really quickly and things like that. So yeah, so I always think if we kind of dial in someone's nutrition and get that right and work out what they're comfortable with, do some gut training to ease the load so they've got a better tolerance of that food. But also, and I try and do this before we actually work on the nutrition, we dial in what their hydration needs are, particularly for the environmental conditions of that race day. And then actually that usually resolves it pretty well. Some people might have problems with race nerves and race issues, which again, I would speak to like a sports psychologist about, or work through it a little bit and take that pressure off a bit. And then also thinking about a diet beforehand. Again, the elite I work with, who's awesome, who's amazing, who had a really, really good UTMB last year, but the previous couple of outings were like, oh my God, I had a really bad UTMB. I'm like, why? And he said, my gut went really early on. I'm, okay, what was it? And he said, just needed to use a toilet. I said, okay, well, that's most likely something you've eaten before the race. So tell me what you've eaten. And because it starts at like 5 or 6 p.m., I can't remember what time now. Like they were like, yeah, well, I'm a bit nervous, so I try and eat quite healthy. I was like, right, show me your diet. So they were vegan. So there was lots of fiber, chickpeas and beans and stuff in there, stuff that's going to come back to bite hard early in a race. But it's just residue in your gut that's bouncing around, your gut bacteria creating gas out of it. So I said, right, let's go in and go on a Rice Krispies, cornflakes, a bit of gnocchi, a little bit of rice in there. Keep it like basically strip out any fat, any fiber, as much protein as possible.
Toddler diet, just go
Exactly.
toddler. Beige foods.
It's like the FODMAP, isn't it? The FODMAP diet. I follow that when I come up to race day because, yeah, my tummy, chickpeas, no way.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Stuff
Who
like
would
that.
do that?
I just would not go near. So again, it's bringing out all those things as well. So that athlete had an absolutely storming UTMB. He was really pleased. But then there's also, going back to what you're saying about FODMAPs, like everybody has one food that they're allergic to. So it's finding what that is as well. And it can be anything. There's common things like red onions or garlic or things like that. For me, I can't eat sprouts, even though I like sprouts. It took 20 years of miserable Christmases to figure it out. And then it took 2 years to figure out whether it's sprouts or parsnips. Anyway, I nailed it in the end. I know why you can't eat courgette or aubergine. So everybody's got something, but not everybody realizes what that thing is.
Yeah.
No, and as runners, we're super sensitive to it, aren't we? We're super sensitive. We love bowel movements.
I'd take a hit.
Yeah.
You know, if it's something I really want to eat, I'll just kind of ride the lightning, basically. I'll go with it. Is all sugar equal? I'm thinking, we talked about overloading, like doing the gut training, and I'm just seeing pound signs, gels after gels, 7 Morton gels for the Ironman, 3 for
Oh, you
Ruth
get them.
Croft.
You get them on the checkpoints at Ironman, though. You
Well,
have to pay like £2,000 entry, and you get endless Morton gels.
Oh, there you go. But so you got your glucose, your fructose, and your maltodextrin. I love like a Turkish delight or a Kendall mint cake. For somebody who's on a budget, is that kind of pathway okay too?
Yeah, absolutely fine. I mean, again, I always go in with Turkish delights because it tastes nice. It's 60p in my local shop. And they've got the same amount of carbs as an old school gel. So it's like 25 grams of carbs in there. And again, it's just glucose. Like, you're missing out on fructose with those. But if you're not going to go high carb, it doesn't really matter. Most gels will use a mixture of fructose and maltodextrin because it uses 2 separate gut transporters, so we can take on more. But maltodextrin is usually used because it has a lower osmolality. So it's just going to be a little bit easier on the gut in terms of that digestion than say, glucose. Some companies even use a mixture of, it's quite good, maltodextrin with glucose and fructose. There's other bits coming onto the market now, like cluster dextrin, which is just another form of glucose. It gets cleared out from the gut faster, but it's a little bit slower to oxidize. But there's not a hell of a lot of research on that at the moment. So the jury's still out on that one a little bit. But yeah, essentially, they're all roughly the same. And if you pick up nearly any gel on the market, you'll find that they are all pretty much identical. They might have a slightly different ratio of fructose to maltodextrin. It could be 2-to-1, as in 2 parts glucose, 1 part fructose, or 1 to 0.8. So almost 1 part glucose, 1 part fructose. And then the only difference is, I'd say, like Tailwind, the regular Tailwind rather than the high carb, that's glucose, so it's dextrose powder, and fructose. But that's the only place that would change sort of significantly. But yeah, they're all pretty much the same.
Is there a reason why they use that though? Is that because you're drinking it too, so that it works better if you're hydrated?
Yeah, it's just a bit easier. They're not using it in like massive amounts. For me, I actually think it's probably because it's a little bit cheaper as well.
Okay.
I did ask them once, and they gave me an answer. Said, "Oh well, glucose, it goes through one less step in terms of getting converted to energy in the body than maltodextrin, but that one step takes no time at all." Okay. But I didn't argue with them. I just walked going, "Okay, thanks," and walked away at that point. But yeah, I think it might come down to cost.
We got lots of questions on electrolytes from Tom, so I'm going to try and kind of paraphrase this for you. He's asking, I'd love to ask about fluids and electrolytes. When should you be drinking more or less? For example, if there's a big climb or descent coming up, is it worth being tactical, or should you simply drink to thirst? If I'm drinking enough, should I be peeing regularly during the race? And should I preload with electrolytes like you would pre-carb load? So he's basically asking timing of electrolyte drinking. And if he's got it right, should he then be peeing a lot during the race? And should you preload with electrolytes?
I think people tend to overdo it with electrolytes. There's just not enough support there. So there's a really good researcher called Alan McCubbin at Monash University in Australia. And he's got a really good podcast as well on nutrition called Fueling Endurance. Sorry, I'm kind of shouting out direct competitors to you there. Feel free to cut that bit out.
No, it's not at all. No, not at all. I'm just writing it down to listen to it. Fueling Endurance.
He's done a lot of really good research on the gut, and he's done like loads on electrolytes and fluids. And his findings were really that, well, anything under 5 hours, you don't need electrolytes at all. There's another good study from a guy called Martin Hoffman who did all the research around Western states a few years ago. And this research is from probably about a decade back. He did a little tester at Western states, and he gave half of them electrolytes, half of them no electrolytes. And then at the end, he measured feelings of nausea, performance, cramp, things like that. Absolutely no difference. And it wasn't to say that they didn't need electrolytes. It was just that they were getting enough sodium through the foods that they were eating and taking on during that race. So again, I just think people overdo it with electrolytes. We don't need to replace sodium like one for one, just because we've got so much sodium in our body already. We've got more than enough to cover us. When we're talking about races in hot conditions that you might be competing in for over 20 hours, then yeah, I would say for sure electrolytes are needed there. Whether we need 1,500 milligrams per hour. I don't think it's anywhere near as that high. So there are formulas, again, that Alan McCubbin created to work this out. So with the athletes I work with, I will usually do different sweat sodium tests over time. So things that are going to change in terms of your sweat sodium are anything from how much sodium you had at your last meal, the pace that you're running at, your training status, how heat acclimatized you are. If we were to do a sweat test with someone now and go, oh, okay, right, this is how much sodium you sweat per litre of fluid, and then they did loads of heat training up until summer, I imagine that number would come down quite significantly. So when I see elite athletes, I'll usually see really, really low numbers, about sort of anywhere between sort of 300 and 400 milligrams per litre. And they might have a sweat rate of 1.5 litres an hour. I'll put that through a formula, and that usually brings it down a little bit because we base that on how much sodium they've already got in the body and how much they need. So again, I go in a lot lighter. So with Tom Evans, for example, at UTMB last year, we didn't put any additional sodium or electrolytes in there. And it wasn't to say that he needed any. It was just that he had like super low sweat sodium anyway, yeah, which I would expect for someone of an elite runner of his stature. But also the nutrition he was taking on, some of the drinks he was taking on already had 600 milligrams of sodium in per litre. So he was taking all he needed through that, and we're giving him little bits of food. So actually, you don't need to overdo it. Yeah, one of my mates who he works for a lot of cycling teams, and he looks after a Grand Tour team. And when he took over that team, like some of his athletes were getting swelling. They were taking that many electrolytes, like they were taking loads of sodium in the diet before and after and during. So he kind of cut it down. I've seen that with a couple of other athletes. So I'm always slightly cautious. So again, it's not to say I wouldn't take electrolytes, but they're not a miracle cure. They're unlikely to stop cramps. They're unlikely to stop nausea or things like that. So I wouldn't see them as like this little pill that you can take that's going to sort all that out, or they're not going to make you faster. But over time, if it's hot in particular, and you're going to be out there for a considerable amount of time, drinking a considerable amount of fluids, then yeah, you do need to restore electrolytes for sure. Preloading, going back to, so Tom's question, preloading, I wouldn't bother. Again, there's some research done on that says there's no need to. The only time you might preload is for the Tokyo Olympics a couple of years back. The Australian team realised it was going to be really hot and they wanted to preload with fluid their athletes. But what they used glycerol to basically hyperhydrate before the race. Glycerol, I wouldn't say anyone to use that because you can get it really wrong and basically shit your pants during the race. So people will use sodium instead, which is going to be safer. So preloading the night before is going to do nothing, yeah, because your hormones are going to regulate sodium. They regulate sodium in the body really well. If you've got an excess of sodium, you will likely sweat out more sodium, but actually the excess will mostly come out in your urine. People will see the sweat and they'll taste the sweat and go, oh, that's salty. People rarely taste their own urine. And if you do, then something very wrong going on. So no one's ever realizes that you've got loads of that excess sodium coming out in your urine. But actually, if you're not taking enough, your body will just retain that and hang on to it. So it moderates that sodium intake and outtake quite a lot. Like it regulates it really, really well because sodium is so important for your body. So it's not like your body has got this, it's just this sort of set thing where it's, oh, this is what it is. Like it's really good at regulating that. The same, it's really good at regulating hydration rates as well. So again, that sort of answers the other question. If someone's not peeing during that race, it doesn't really matter because like they might be dehydrated, or if they're peeing a lot, they might be overhydrated, but your body will just recycle that fluid. So when you pee and it's quite dark, it's just that fluid is being recycled again, taking another shot through your liver. So stuff like that I wouldn't really be worrying about at all. The preloading, everybody's preloading already. Like I've seen over 200 food diaries of ultra runners, and I've only ever seen 2 which are within the normal range of what we should be taking on in terms of sodium. People are taking double the amount of sodium we need already each day just through the foods we eat. So people are already doing preloading. If people want to go in and hyperhydrate, let's say they have issues with getting dehydrated, or they do get cramps quite a lot, or they have some other issues which are to do with thermoregulation. And actually, they're out there on their own. There might not be many aid stations. Someone might hyperhydrate and use sodium to do that, but that would be in the morning of the race. Most of the time, you don't need that, particularly if you run an ultra and you're not actually going that fast, and there is water available at aid stations. You've got the capacity to carry enough water between those aid stations. So for me, it's just not something that's needed. And again, I see people perform at world-class and elite levels without taking on excess.
It's fascinating. I've got a mate, Ray, Tour de Helvellyn. I can't remember the year. He still tells me now I saved his race. Give him the little sachet of electrolytes. He's convinced.
The only time when it might recover you is there's one bit of research that came out of Japan that showed that if you're dehydrated and then you take on just plain water, that might reduce the threshold to getting cramps. So it could increase the likelihood of getting cramps. But that was only if you're in a dehydrated state. And what they showed is with a really, really salty drink, like serious amount of sodium in it, almost to an undrinkable amount, that would stop that lowering of that cramp threshold. So you could do that with like something like Precision Fuel and Hydration, because they use sodium citrate, which won't have quite as much of a salty taste as like typical table salt, for example. So you could get away with more of that in the drink if you do have quite a low threshold to cramps.
So your guy on the treadmill today, will he be taking any electrolytes for 6.5 hours?
I'll put electrolytes in because people feel they need electrolytes. So from that psychological level, we'll do that. But also, I quite often put electrolytes in because it gives some flavour. So the drink that he's taken on today, like most sports drinks, are going to be grain-based. So the glucose and malted dextrin is going to be broken down from wheat, maize, where like we're trying to test like isotopic ratios. So I can't go with those because they have a high natural abundance of 13 carbon. So I'm actually giving him a potato-based sports drink today. So it's a potato-based malted dextrin that I get from the Netherlands.
And did you tell him that before he started running, or have you not told him that he's having a potato?
I told him that, and he said, "You're not going to give me a jacket potato tasting drink, are you?" And I was like, let me put some electrolytes in it just in case it is a little bit potatoey. So again, I'm going to see how he does on that today. If he does well off that, I might market it and call it Spud Gun or something, and a potato-based sports drink.
Yeah.
Dragon's Den, I can see it.
Exactly, yeah, something new to the market, shake it up a little bit. So there's times I'd use electrolytes to that.
Got another question from a Patreon. Neil Robinson, please ask a question around supplements, as I'm currently using quite a few every day. He's got one of these little pill devices, so you know exactly what pills you should take every day. So yeah, I suppose the two questions, what supplements are worth taking? And also, does Paul fit in with the Red Bull shoe drinking that Tom does in his victory roll, as there may be a few supplements in that concoction he could use too?
Some supplements are a bit off the wall that I wouldn't go near, and also depends where you're getting your supplements. So, for instance, if you get cheap probiotics, it's likely that you're not getting what you paid for, and all the bacteria are already dead in there anyway. So I'd say go to really reputable supplement brands. I'd say that's for a start. If you're at the sharp end of the race, then and you think you're going to be on the podium, then I would also be taking supplements which are in the States, they have like NSF certified, but over in Europe and particularly in the UK, we'll have Informed Sport. So make sure they're batch tested. Just because I think you're going to see this more and more in ultras. And even now, when I go over and do like training camps in France, the French Federation's actually testing out of competition. So it's not just on race day now. Like some people have quite literally got people turning up at the door saying, look, we want to do a test. So you've got to be really careful what you take. And if you get something that's batch tested, you know what you're getting paid for then as well. I'm sorry, you know what you're paying for then. And then, the ones I take personally, at this time of the year, vitamin D, 100%, not just for athletes, but for your parents, for your brothers, your sisters, because no one's going to get enough solar radiation from the sun to produce vitamin D. So it's really important for overall health and performance. The ceiling on that's about 4,000 international units. Anything over that would be, and even 4,000 is really for people who've got deficiencies in vitamin D. But I usually kind of play it safe and go for that. But you could be taking anywhere between 1,000 and 4,000. That's a safe range. As we go into spring, you probably can stop that when the sun comes out, which being in the UK could well be July. All it takes is about 15 minutes of sun on your arms each day to get enough vitamin D.
No way.
So you don't need a hell of a lot. You don't need to be sunbathing all day. But as I say, even at the moment, the sun just doesn't get high enough in the sky to get that solar radiation that would need to synthesize vitamin D. So that's key at the moment. I'll probably carry on doing that all the way up until maybe May, just to play it safe a little bit, and then I'd stop. And then, omega-3, because nobody gets enough through the diet. Even people nobody eats enough salmon for a start. And most of the salmon people eat now is farmed. So I'd take omega-3 for sure, which is really important. Again, over winter, I'd say a really good probiotic, really good quality one with as much like a 20 billion count of bacteria. That's always worthwhile. If you've got a poor diet, then just a general multivitamin. If it was a female athlete, I would go and get some blood tests and certainly look at iron. Like for female athletes, particularly vegetarian and vegan athletes, I see like really low iron in lots of females, not just amateurs, but like right at the elite level. So I wouldn't just go on iron for the sake of it, because you can get gut issues through it. Too much iron is going to cause toxicity. But I would certainly get a blood test and check that out and look at other levels of what you need, like magnesium and zinc, things like that. Just supplementing for the sake of it isn't worth it. So there's a lot around magnesium at the moment, but if you take on magnesium and you get enough through your diet, it's not really going to help. You'll only find it will help, in particular performance, if you've not got enough through your diet. So my advice to people is check your diet first, make sure you're taking enough in. So just a general varied diet, lots of fruit, lots of veg, lots of different sources of protein, which can be like easily attainable, whether you're vegan, vegetarian, or like a meat eater. Lots of nuts and seeds as well is what people quite often don't have, and putting lentils and things in there. Get a good quality blood test, either from your local GP or somewhere reputable online, and then supplement as and when if needed. All the other stuff, like the weird stuff, I would avoid a lot of the time.
You're not putting in broccoli, Paul?
The broccoli, the new broccoli, the Nomio broccoli.
It's really expensive. I saw how much that cost the other day.
If you'd asked me this question a week ago, I would have said bollocks, yeah. But actually, we had Tom Evans here in the lab last week, and over lunch I was chatting to him about Nomio, and he said, do you know what? I've tested it loads now, and I think it really works. He said, I'm really into it. I'm like, okay. Again, he's a guy who like really looks into this and like he's kind of monitoring his body all the time. So now I'm not in the bollocks camp quite as much anymore for it. I'm thinking, maybe there is some potential. He said, yeah, the first 90 minutes isn't great, but a little bit later on, it's all right. But again,
I think life's too short. I think you could tweak your diet somewhere else, personally.
Yeah, definitely. I was giving a guest lecture at Exeter Uni a couple of weeks ago, and I walked into one of their labs, and they were actually doing a study on Nomio, so a crossover study. So testing athletes who'd taken Nomio and then testing athletes who'd taken a placebo. So I look forward to that one coming out.
Yes. Yeah. Was it sponsored by Nomio?
No, it wasn't. No.
All right,
So it's not biased. It's not biased. So we'll be interested in that one. But for me, there's not much to support it yet. It might, but I wouldn't be taking it yet.
Turmeric, that used to do the rounds. Peptides are pretty popular at the moment. Creatine, that always seems to be around.
Turmeric's good. Creatine's great, definitely. Occasionally give beta-alanine to people as well when we're doing longer hill reps earlier in the season. Creatine's good if you're going to do like strides, VO2 max reps. If you're doing some strength and conditioning work as well. Again, some people will put on a little bit of additional weight with creatine, some people not. So you might come off creatine 3 to 4 weeks before your key race just to drop that additional weight. But the rest of the year, you'd be absolutely fine. Ketones as well, you might put in, but really, it tastes like battery acid and 60 quid a shot.
It's so expensive.
No.
Yeah. We're not sure what the returns are going to be. So
let's buy more lentils.
Exactly. Just play it safe. Have a really good diet. Take in enough energy. Make sure you get enough carbs. Make sure you're hitting 1.8 grams per kilogram of body weight each day for protein. And you can't go much wrong.
I've written about 10 points. Eddie, come on, raise your game. I've just written buy kids vitamin D.
Yeah. It's like less for kids. So you could go with like 1,000 international units for kids.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're not getting. I don't want them juiced up too much. They're enough to handle as it is. Keep them.
Is there?
Yeah.
You mentioned about the protein. Is there an amount of carbs per kilo of body weight you should be? I suppose it varies, but yeah, a lot of our listeners are trail runners and then ultra runners too.
Like the guidelines, which go back to 2016, start at roughly about 5 grams per kilogram of body weight for a 10K run each day. In my experience, most people who are just kind of taking a normal diet, let's say porridge for breakfast, sandwich for lunch, dinner with rice or potatoes, and a couple of snacks in a day, most people are taking about 200 grams of carbohydrates on with that, which will probably cover for about 10K a day. But actually, if you're doing ultra running, it's going to be nowhere near. So people need to bulk up a lot more. And that's a difficult thing because all of a sudden, it seems like you're loading your plate up a lot more, or it seems like you're taking on more energy during your runs. This is where there's always like a bit of a gap. And this is where I'll tend to see some people like have low energy availability or take on reds. So all of a sudden, they'll get everything dialed in for a certain amount. They'll get fitter and go, right, I'm going to whack it up now. And then not adjust how much we're taking on in terms of eating. They'll add more. It just seems like a hell of a lot of food. And this is where all of a sudden you'll get that gap. And over time, it'll build up and become a major deficit. So this is where a little bit more crap comes in, like a little bit more processed stuff. So sports nutrition, things like that, more drinks, a few Haribos here and there, just stuff that's easier to take on. And this is where I'd introduce things like bagels and more white toast, cornflakes, Rice Krispies, glasses of orange juice, things like that.
I'm so happy to hear you talk about Rice Krispies because they're my go-to snack.
Exactly. You can, like, if you've got a diet of about 2,000 calories where it's super healthy, you can actually cover everything in that. After that, you can top it up with quite a lot of other stuff. I mean, I wouldn't go in like with loads of saturated fat or anything like that. But when we talk about sugar as athletes, we think about this totally different than someone who's sedentary.
I've got one more question before we do the quick 5 questions, Paul. Have you, like Eddie and I, unfortunately, we're now not on the starting line for the Northern Traverse, but yeah, lots of our listeners will be doing races like the Northern Traverse, Race Across Scotland, Spine Race. Does the nutrition strategy, have you got experience with athletes doing those type of races? Does it change the nutrition strategy?
Like multi-day events compared to sort of single stage or...
Yeah, or even just like those continuous 200 milers.
So for something like the Spine versus UTMB, let's say, UTMB, in terms of that strategy, probably wouldn't change much compared to like, let's say a 50K or a 50 miler, like anything that's like single stage continuous, someone's really going to kind of be competing at it. Probably wouldn't change too much. On something like the Spine, potentially a lot of that's going to be walking. So you're going to be using a lot more of your fat stores for that, which you've got plenty of. Not you personally.
Oh no, I've got loads.
Just in
my winter wall.
Just in general. So yeah, we'll top up with carbs and that, but you probably wouldn't need to go in as heavy. Like you certainly wouldn't be needing to have 90 grams an hour. But again, this is where, when it gets long, we've got that balance between carbohydrates and energy. So single stage, something shorter, I'm not really fussed about energy intake. Whereas something longer, particularly multi-day, I'm more concerned about meeting those energy needs. There was a paper from a few years ago that looked at sort of doing a controlled study trying to prepare an athlete for Marathon des Sables. And they showed that if this athlete took in a smaller pack size with half rations, so it's lighter compared to full rations, what would be the difference? And the difference was when we took full rations, even though it's heavier, they actually walked less by day 3. So that increase in energy, like they just felt it just stopped a little less fatigue. So I'd say on a multi-day event and something particularly long like the Spine, I would maybe weigh the balance a little bit more. So energy comes in a lot higher. It was almost equal time given to sort of carbohydrates and energy. And some of that energy might be coming from more energy dense foods. So foods which maybe either have a higher amount of fat in, whereas the UTMB, for example, I try and get someone to avoid fat. When I'm crewing on races like UTMB, I'm always very surprised. Every time I go in, even at the sharp end, I go around and I take pictures of all the other crew points and what people have got.
Bet they love that. Bet the French love that. They're like,
You're always a bit amazed. There's some crazy stuff like people having bowls of porridge, which I wouldn't recommend midway through UTMB. One person just had boiled eggs. I was like, what on earth? Like, that's not going to help.
whereas on the spine, you'd be like, yes, someone said I've got a bowl of egg and porridge. You'd be like, it's amazing though. Let's just listen to the body. Yeah, if you listen to the body, you'd be like, I totally like spine. It is all about like, you eat your big meals at the checkpoints, you eat your rehydrated meals.
Yeah,
Someone said a
exactly.
gel, you'd be like, no, you might have a few emergency gels or gels for the first day, but the body becomes this like we're built for survival, and it's like I want fats, I want protein, and I'm happy to do quite a long way with just a meal, and then you can go 3 or 4 hours with just little snacks. The body becomes a sort of like catabolic state almost, but almost in a healthy way, in that like it goes, okay, yeah, I can keep moving because I'm going so slowly.
Yeah, well, I do see that on multi-day events or events like 200 milers, for instance, after day one, gels and drinks quite often go out the window and people seem to prefer real food a bit more.
Definitely. There's definitely you just got to switch the menu. You've got your menu for the first 24 hours, and then you change the waiter and a different menu comes in.
Yeah.
With some totally different options.
Ultimately, it's what you're comfortable with as well. If that food doesn't work for you, the chances are you're not going to eat it, or you're going to get flavor fatigue. Something that might not be ideal is better than nothing.
I had a guy, he did Northern Traverse in less than 60 hours and all he ate was crisps. And he's like, it works for me.
Incredible.
I love it. I'll never get bored of
That's what
them.
Trish would do.
That's pretty good going.
Packets of crisps.
His mouth must have been raw. Oh my God.
Yeah. What, like, did he mix them up? Was there like the odd bag of mini
flavors?
there?
So I think he's the sort of guy that had the same one of
Monster Munch for 60 hours. Oh, goodness me.
I know where I'm at. I know where I'm at.
But it shows he got through it. And what I'm always surprised at is like seeing what like the absolute elites take. A lot of like some amazing records out there which have been like ran on like hardly anything, like so low. Yeah. Considering now everyone's talking about 120 grams an hour, and we're talking like major records which have been on less than half of that.
Yeah, I wonder what Joss Naylor and Billy Bland were fueling on when they were flying around the fells.
Like a Mars bar, and that was it. Not
boiled eggs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should we do the quick five? Paul, you're just about to head out to Frampton Edge. You're going to lace up your shoes. What is your go-to current running shoe?
Salomon Genesis S-Lab. So I've got a Morton's Neurona on one foot, so it's like nerve damage. So what happens is I've got a garage quite literally full of new shoes. So I buy some shoes, put them on once, they're a little bit too tight. I get excruciating pain, put them away. So so Salomon, they give me loads of shoes, and most of them like just a little bit too tight. So they go to my dad. But they gave me the S-Lab Genesis, and they're quite literally best pair of trail shoes I've ever worn. So I've got loads of those at the moment. They're really, really good. And then in the winter conditions, I'll wear, the grip's not quite great for where I live because it gets quite muddy. So I wear the Innovate Mud Talon, is it?
Yeah.
Where they used to be the Mud Claw. That works well for me, the wide version. So between those two, they're both like my go-to shoes. I mean, I've got the 150 unused ones in the garage. But
what's your go-to shoe, Eddie?
At the moment, I'm in the Hoka Mafate 4s, which I'm really enjoying. Bit of bounce, good grip in the mud. Run all day, I call them. My run all day shoes.
Were they going to be your Northern Traverse shoes?
They were going to be my Northern Traverse shoe.
Sad times.
Yeah, sad times.
You've been out for a massive run. It could be a race, though. Yeah, favourite post-race or run treat?
A pint.
With the vicar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nice pint. And this is it. Like when I started out, this is how fell running was. Like no one's really interested in the running. It was more going to a pub after and socialising and having a beer.
Well, last time I did the Swaledale Marathon, I've only done it twice or three times, but I remember the little village hall afterwards and everybody sitting around eating there. To be fair, the carrots and the whatever else was had been cooked for quite a long time. It was very soggy, but it was just great. That soggy veg, whatever meat it was, and everyone just having a catch up. It was great.
Yeah, that's it. You've got to put the fun in it somewhere.
Okay, you finished your run and your watch says 9.99 miles. Do you just save the activity or do you jog on down the street and round it up to 10 miles?
Yeah, if it's 9.99, I will. If it was 9.95, I wouldn't. That little one. Because I know that I can get that just by going to the end of a drive.
Yeah.
Do you think every runner knows from the pavement to the end of to their front door, like exactly like I can get 0.0 on so I can stop now? I know exactly each little, like each tree and bit near my house where I'm like, if I just need that extra bit.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I'd leave 9.99. The comments would come in. I'd love that. Trigger people all over Strava.
Yeah.
Rusty Fox 46 has a question. What is your go-to for carbs and electrolytes during training and events? Yeah, I suppose quantities, and you can give products a shout out.
Yeah, I'm a consultant for a few companies. So I'm a consultant for Ministry Nutrition in Germany. So I use a lot of their stuff. Not as big in the UK, just because obviously...
I've never heard of it.
No.
They're pretty big in Europe. Yeah, they use a lot of natural flavouring. So obviously I use their stuff because it gets sent to me for free, which is great. But I do really like it. But then, yeah, I'll use other stuff as well. So there's a company actually based in Annecy in France called Bao, and they've made the tastiest gel I've ever had and the singly most disgusting gel I've ever had. So again, with my job, I buy every single gel in every company. I taste them all. So I've got everything. But yeah, they make a lemon and lime one, which is absolutely amazing. They make a parsnip and sweet potato one.
Oh, I've had it. That's the most disgusting thing I've ever taken in my life.
Even my dog wouldn't eat that. It's horrific. But the lemon and lime one, I've got a massive batch of those still. And I always take those out on a run and have them. And they are really, really tasty.
I had a beetroot gel once. That wasn't good. Oh.
No, they're not nice. No way.
Instagram story music time, Paul. Yeah, every week we share the podcast. We put a story up and we put a post up on Instagram, but you get to choose the song that we put to that post. What's it going to be?
I'd like to say I could come up with something off the top of my head, but this question's consumed me for about 2 weeks. And like it was only the other day when my wife said, look, you're not going on desert island discs.
I'd like to tell your wife this is the equal footing.
Exactly. It is to me. Definitely. But yeah, like being from Manchester, my default's always the Smiths, but I don't want people to think that I'm miserable.
Yeah, but they're good tunes.
Yeah, good. Yeah, but I did think just go to a classic, Sound and Vision by David Bowie, best track of all time. That's
we're all going to agree on that one.
I might be sitting on the fence a little bit on there, but actually, I was at a wedding 2 weeks ago, and it's quite literally the only track I danced to all week.
Oh, you got married 2 weeks ago.
Oh no, not me. Someone else's wedding.
Oh, I was going to go.
No.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was my anniversary last week, but no, it's someone else's wedding.
We haven't asked about your dog, and I feel remiss if we haven't asked about what dog you have.
Yeah, he's half Border Collie, half Australian Shepherd. So,
oh my God, Paul, is he nuts?
We thought we were going to get a Border Collie with an off switch, but we just got twice the energy. But he's good. He is really trainable, really well behaved, got a lot of personality, but just an amazing running dog, just do any distance. And he's really good. Like he's good in the cold and he's good in the heat. So in the lakes over Christmas, we were on top of Fairfield and I had a little wind meter with me and the wind chill was -17 and he was rolling around in the snow. Like it's just
nuts. Just goes the best thing.
Just so tough. Yeah.
Dad, I love it. Do you give him little snacks? You like, come on, sports nutritionist, do you need
parsnip
little snacks
gel
while I'm running? Little parsnip gel? Or?
Yeah. He doesn't like the parsnip gels too much, but yeah, give him quite a lot of snacks. Yeah, that kind of keeps him going. And it's odd because you can give him like a little tiny snack and it's like some pellet that just perks him up and he seems to have 10 times the energy. I'm like,
because there's nothing worse, is there? Is that if you stop and you're getting a snack out and they come up and you've done 12 miles, they've probably done 20. And then I'm like, oh, I forgot your snacks. And I'm like, what can I give you? I've given mine like flapjack bars and all sorts before because I'm like, I haven't got you anything. But then they go, that's okay. Just go off. I get dried liver from the butchers on the market each week in the village. And actually that goes down a treat. Both of you there, smacking your lips with your liver.
Yeah.
Is your dog allowed on the furniture, Paul? It's the hard-hitting question.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, we can all be friends. Paul, thank you so much. Giving up so much of your time. I feel like that we could have chatted all day, but so much good nuggets of information in there as well. We really appreciate you coming on the show. Good luck with all your work this year with all the athletes. Yeah. And we'll know when we follow Tom, Ruth, and all of them around Chamonix that you are down to their success. And we look forward to seeing you drinking out of Tom's shoe again, maybe this year.
Yeah, cool. Well. Yeah, well, I'm going to avoid that shoe. unless he shoves a pint in it, that is.
Oh, special request.
I think
he's listening. You'll do that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, a million thank yous for coming on the podcast, and I hope your guy in the lab, give him a pop our podcast on for him to listen to. That'll make the hours fly by.
Yeah, I'm going to go in and do some testing with him now. But yeah, thanks, Ian. It's great to chat.
See you soon.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.